I was thinking that we should invest in a good mic or such
a good
things.
mic for that.
Yeah.
I realized that my mic does have a unidirectional setting that may have been a little better for all of us sitting around a table talking to each other. I just completely forgot that setting exists.
Well, it came out okay.
Yeah. Good.
The content, as they say, I think was worth it. Yeah, and people seem to have enjoyed the episode. So
yeah. All right, let's do this.
Welcome, friends, to the Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast. The podcast. I was about to say the show. It's both. It's a podcast and it's a show. It's a show in the form of a podcast. How about that?
It's a show in your mind's eye.
That comes to you through your ears. Where I sit down with my good friend, Epidai Ravishal, to talk about truly true role-playing games and their design, among other things.
And it's a podcast and show that I sit down with my good friend Nathan Paoletta to talk about exactly what you said. We're going to talk about design, a little peek behind the curtain here. We're going to try and make it as natural as possible to restart a conversation we were starting just before we started to record.
We were having the traditional kind of catching up. We've been spending a lot of time together.
There's no real catching up going on.
But just the thing we were talking about was like, oh, this is a thing we could talk about on the show. Save it for the show, I said.
Yes, indeed.
What is that topic, Epi?
Okay, well, it's Swords Without Mastery. Well, okay, so
it doesn't have to be just swords.
It doesn't, yeah.
But this example comes from swords.
It does, yes. Let me paint a picture for you here. After what is it? 15 years after?
Sure.
No, it's like 15 years. Yeah. 2010, 16 years. 2010, I think, is when I had the preview. So that's before it was published in Worlds.
We've looked this up. I can look this up again because I still have my Patreon emails from being a member of the Swords Patreon.
The Worlds Patreon.
Sorry. Yes, the Worlds Patreon. Here we go. Okay. We got an April report from Epi. I'm scrolling all the way back. I got some free downloads. First issue was 2013.
Yeah,
all right.
So
issue 3 of Worlds Without Master went out March 31st / April 1st.
Yes.
2014.
Oh, 12 years ago. Oh my God. April 1st, Epi. Okay. But that was 4 years after we had the preview at Gen Con, I think. Anyway, the point is for like 15, 16 years now, I've been writing this game on and off. On Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't remember what day. Earlier this week, I was like, there it is, Nathan.
Here's the game.
Here's the game.
Right.
And then yesterday, I was like, hey, Discord, what if I changed the game? The proposed change. Let me just go through like the sort of mind process here. I was on Blue Sky. I was talking about Eidolons and because we've got the proofs, and they're gorgeous. And like, I'm super excited about them. They're like literally, I'm jovial. Yes. Nathan he's got the jovial card, the overtone card switched to jovial, pressed against his forehead. Everyone should have a tone card. No, anyways, the point is
Swords Without Master MMO where it floats over your head.
So I was talking about how in the early days I had a pile of fantasy art cards, like collectible ones, the kind where you get them in like a pack with gum, that kind of thing. A lot of like Michael Whalen, a lot of Vallejo. I am blanking on like the one.
Frazetta.
Thank you. Oh my Lord.
You've been in it. You've been in it too long.
I have. Anyways, and a lot of other artists. I don't want to like discount any of them. I can't find those cards right now, but they were a lot of fun running the play tests and running demos where I'd spread those cards out in front of people. And I was like, if I ever make a standalone version, it should have these. I should publish art cards like this, which was very convenient for me because I also got to say, and I'll never be able to make that happen, so I never have to do a standalone version of Swords. And then Nathan comes along and says, I'm paraphrasing here, but hey, little foolish epi. We're publishing this. And then we get Shell and Shell on as our art director, Shellcon, and it becomes really possible. It is an actual reality. Physical cards exist. I was just, I guess, celebrating that, ruminating over it, right? Like I was like, this is wild. While I was ruminating over it, I was talking to a broader audience, not necessarily people who know what's going on with swords, which may include you, dear listener. So this next part, listen up, I guess. And I said, to make a rogue in swords, you need 3 things. You need the Eidolons, which we were just talking about. You pick something from our world that reminds you of your rogue. Very easy pick is just a piece of art. And so we're giving you a bunch of art to choose from if you'd like, but you can pick other things. You can pick songs and drinks and animals, anything as long as it's not AI. No AI. So you pick one of those things, something that reminds you of your rogue. Then you write down all that deserves a name. These are your rogue's weapons, your rogue's, maybe they got family, maybe it's somebody that they fight all the time, like a foe that they're constantly facing. Maybe it's their trusty steed, maybe it's the name of their homeland. Just anything that's important to your rogue that you want to give a name to. Mechanically, in the game, this gives you like a veto power over something happening or some choice being made with these that doesn't match what you were thinking of for your rogue, right? You can come up with like a very supportive family, and then if the overplayer starts talking about how the family has rejected you, you can just be like, no, that's not the deal.
Right.
Or you could be like, they must be under some kind of spell, and then that's fine. So you've got the Eidolon, you've got all that deserves a name, and then you have a feat heroic that is glum and a feat heroic that's jovial. And these are just examples of something your rogue can do, some mighty deed that they might do when faced with a problem. Now, that's not the entire story, because there's also tricks. And tricks are the topic here. But before I get to it, I just want to talk about how neat and tidy those 3 things are. That you don't need to know the rules to the game to do this.
Right.
Aside from the rules that I just explained, that you need them, right? You need to know the tones and what they mean, but that's the extent of it.
It is implied that there are times that you do not get to say, oh, I don't want that to happen to my horse or whatever. But if you put the horse on your everything that deserves a name, then you do get to say, oh, no, you don't get to do that to my horse.
Yes.
So, but this is all just also part of like, here's what this game is,
Right.
And here's how characters work in the game that we're about to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me in particular, I really kind of like the idea that, this happens a lot in my game design, like in Dread, you're just answering questions and that's your character. In Time and Temp, you write a resume for your character and that's your character sheet, it's a design level aesthetic that I enjoy in the games that I make. I don't honestly, I really do enjoy making characters in like the most, one of my favorite times making characters was making a superhero in Champions Now, which is Ron Edwards' take on the old Champion system. And that is crunchy, chunky, and just I spent a weekend with a spreadsheet to make that like a weekend. I got to play the character very briefly, but I loved making that character. So I'm not saying that this is a aesthetic that I think all games should do, because that would make my life boring, but it's a thing that I find rewarding. Okay, now the tricks. The tricks are the 4th thing. Actually, they're the 5th thing now because we added the ephemera, but the ephemera is just all that doesn't deserve a name.
It's also ephemera. So
it's ephemera.
It comes and goes, and you don't have to have it. So
yeah. If you're an old swords head, ephemera is just a new thing where you write down the things that you have that you're going to get rid of as you adventure, or you write down the things that you've gained as you adventure, and you get rid of as you carouse and gamble. It's nothing. You've done this in every game.
Anyway.
Yeah. The tricks. So the tricks are ways to break the rules in the game. And earlier this year, or actually a little bit late last year, I had this insight where I realized the tricks, although a lot of them mention the rogues and focus on your rogue, they're not of your rogue. There's something that belongs to the rogue player. That doesn't mean a whole lot in the core game, but in the extended game and some of the scrolls, that actually means something. It comes up. In the the trooping scroll where multiple players can be playing the same rogue. Each player has their own trick.
Right. The tricks are not, here's a special power that my character has in the world.
Right.
The tricks are, here's a way that I as the player can say, oh, I want to break the regular rules in this way.
Yeah.
Like I foresee a time that I want to do this.
Yeah. There's a trick that lets you write down a moral that your rogue should learn, and it lets you have a bad consequence to something you rolled by using that trick. Normally in the game, these consequences come up because of a roll. And if you haven't played the game, you're like,
why does this matter?
Yeah, why do I want to do that? After you played the game, you're like, oh, I gotta teach this guy a lesson. Your relationship to your rogue is a little different than what you might expect. Anyways, each of the tricks breaks a different rule, which means you need to know the rules to understand the tricks that you're taking. So not only is this like, it's not particularly about the rogue itself, but also when I'm teaching the game to people, we do like the first 3 things that I mentioned before. And then I'm like, okay, now I have to teach you the whole game before we can do the next step. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not a lot, like, comparatively. It's not like learning all the character classes in, like, a D&D or something like that. It's not a giant ask, but it is a bit of an ask.
There's 2 sides of it, right? One is the overplayer / game knower side, where you're like, okay, let me frame for you what tricks are and why you might want to pick one trick over another. And part of that is I'm going to run down all the specific, like all these kind of like rules that we're going to hit as we play. It doesn't take long, maybe a couple minutes, but like that's the thing that you need to kind of have the, the experience with the game to be like, oh, here's why.
Right.
And then on the other side, even if you're hearing that as a player for the first time, you still don't really have a good, intuition as to why I would pick one of these over the other. Because like, okay, I've heard you say here's the phases and here's how this one changes that phase and here's the moral thing. And so I know morals exist and that's going to come up when we roll dice or whatever, but I still don't like know what that means. Right,
exactly.
As you play the game, you learn, and by the time you've played one adventure, you're like, oh, okay, that's how all that hangs together. But from the player side, even getting that explanation is still kind of like, all right, so I'm still just making kind of an arbitrary choice because I don't really understand what the ramifications are of these different things.
And having taught this game countless times, I feel that moment.
Yeah.
Like every single time I'm like, I'm just going to tell you what, now I've taught you the rules. I'm going to tell you the tricks that I think we should use because they're good for starting players. And now I'm going to tell you what each one does. If one calls to you, take it, because 2 players can't have the same trick. So if one calls to you, take it. If not, I'm just going to assign them.
Sure.
It's gonna,
And then at the end of the game, it's like, oh, no one used their tricks. Is really
that's the other thing
where
too.
It gets
like,
to. Yeah.
Especially in an early game, there could be a lot of reasons for that. It could be that like you just don't feel comfortable enough with the rules to like make it. It could be that you've just forgotten that it exists. It could be that, hey, you're playing with the game designer. You shouldn't break the rules. The game designer knows what he's doing. He does not. Anyways. The point to all this is that I was like, I had this moment within the past 48 hours where I thought, oh, you shouldn't have tricks for the first time you play the game. like 16 years on, there's a solution here that is kind of neat that we're going to implement and put in the game. And that's fine. I don't need to get into that part now. All of this has been a digression from just that moment, because that moment is an interesting moment in game design. And Nathan pointed this out to me, which is the rest of it's done. You kind of get to this point where you're like, oh yeah, this is just like a little rough edge to buff out.
It is similar to the thing I talked about in our Plus Expenses, which went out on the main feed, where I was talking about how in playtesting, there's this sense of like leveling up, or at least of progression with the process, where it's like, okay, all the critique is no longer at the base level. The critique is now at the next level up, and the base level is just like, oh, that's just how the game works. And like, this is kind of the other end of that. Like, we're at the tip of the pyramid. That we've ascended the ziggurat, and now we're at the very top. All that stuff down there is all kind of settled. And, for better or for worse, sometimes there's stuff that you play for another decade and
then you're like, oh, this was wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it gets to a new audience, right? And that audience has a different play culture. And you're like, oh,
Mhm.
I would like to accommodate that play culture. So that means I should change some things in like another edition or with a supplement or like something like that. But that feeling of like, oh, this is all settled. And it means that your focus of like, oh, here's a thing that could change, not only becomes much more fine grained like this, where it's like,
Mhm.
this is like one sentence in the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Like this is not
Yes.
something that requires like a huge change. I was like, Epi, if it takes a lot
Right,
of
yeah.
text, just letting it be. And it's like, no. We can sand off this little edge with like 2 sentences of text and one way of visualizing it in layout.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Because we also have the City of Fire and Coin, I was like, do we have to change that? And I've come to the conclusion that we do not.
Mm.
I don't even remember. I'll have to take a look at it, but I think like the tricks are mentioned, but they're not front loaded at all.
They're not front loaded, but they're also like specified to the character.
Right. Yeah. You don't have
Character
to come up
has
with a
like
trick.
their
Yeah.
trick, and it's more like Moffat's.
Yeah.
Moffat's trick is like has a name of some kind, I think.
Yeah. He's the inevitable foe. Why do I should go on.
Yeah. So the kind of thing here that I thought would be, a good place to talk for the show is having an insight about the game when it's really close to being done. Like,
Yeah.
we're basically done, but it is a significant change in terms of the game before we make this change and the game after we make this change are palpably different, right?
Yes.
Teaching the game for the first time, with the rule of, well, in this case, there's going to be one trick that everyone uses, that everyone gets as a first time player. And then once you're no longer a first time player, you don't get to use that trick anymore. Right.
Right.
And that just introduces the concept of a trick and it gives you a character thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. You don't need to know the rest of the game. It only refers to the stuff you've already done for your character. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's backwards looking instead of forward looking. And that way you can skip all of that. Like you can say there
Preamble.
are tricks, but this is your trick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once we play, you can look at the list and be like, oh, this is what I would do for my next, because you change your trick.
Yeah.
And I think that is, a palpably different experience. I think I have a couple examples of that with a couple of my games.
Yeah. Do tell.
In Imp of the Perverse, the game was basically done. I was running, I don't remember exactly the timeline of events, but basically I ran the game as like a kind of final play test, but like it was basically done. I was like, I'm running it for some friends in Chicago. It was either while I was prepping for the Kickstarter or while the Kickstarter was running or something like that. And so it was like, this is to kind of shake it out and just get it in front of a couple new people and just give me the experience of running it kind of a full soup to nuts, like not just a one shot kind of thing.
There comes a time where you're playtesting not the game, but your demo of the game, how you present and play the game with strangers kind of thing.
There's that. And then this was a little more like, I just want to play the game. And
okay. Yeah. That happens too. Yes.
Yeah. So like, I was pretty comfortable with the demo and stuff. And this was kind of the other end where it's like, I'm just going to play the game with some friends with the knowledge that it is technically a playtest because I will be taking whatever I gain from this, but just putting another rep on it basically. Right. But that game, that's like a 3 to 5 session arc is like one like unit of play, right, overall. Anyway, when I was prepping for that game, I had an idea that I think came up while I was writing some of the material for the book, which was about like, it's like different kinds of horror storytelling, right? It's basically like you're in a world, a historical 1830s, 1840s America, where there's these creatures that have given into their perversity and turned into a literal monster, right? And then your protagonists are characters who have this perversity, this imp on their shoulder, tempting them with power. And to deal with that, the game is hunting down and dealing with those who have already given in. And that can be a path for you to regain your humanity, or it can be a path for you to give into it yourself. And then if you do so and you turn into, if you get to the end of a chapter, it's called, and have given into perversity, you turn into the next monster, and then you become the GM, and the current GM creates a character, and they all hunt your character, right? Like
that's great. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Which is good stuff. I think it's a hook for people because it's a fun idea and it's fun to do. Anyway, so I was writing in the book about like basically taking different Edgar Allan Poe stories and being like, here are types of plot.
Mm-hmm.
Go out into the wilderness is one. There's a darkness at the heart of the community is one. Alienation from the community is one. Like there's a couple of different like types, and you can kind of be like, oh, I have my monster, but what's like the kind of plot that I see around them for the players to enter into. And while I was writing some of that, I was like, okay, there's a thing that I had been doing in play that emerged from a necessity, which was, okay, you need to deal with the monster somehow. And there's no like combat hit points, damage stuff. Like you have to achieve a narrative conclusion. And then this dovetails with like writing about all these kind of story archetypes and plots and being like, much of the time what you do is you discover or achieve a poetic understanding of the solution, right? Like,
yeah.
Obviously, this must be true. Like, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. I mean, the irony here is that most of the Poe stories do not end with dealing with the monster, right? Like, that's why this game is not just playing those stories. But I
mean, spoiler for an Oscar Wilde story, but the Portrait of Dorian Gray, like where the idea is that destroy the portrait.
Yeah.
It's the I'm trying to think of like
it's part of the Gothic, right? It's like
you're like, oh, this is the logic of this monster, and if we follow this logic, this is our solution.
And so we're doing that naturally in play, but there's a little bit of like kind of in the big climactic thing, kind of being like, okay, I guess I do this. And then as the GM being like, okay, yeah, kind of deciding like, yeah, that'll work because you're all on the same page about that logic. So there's that. And then there's also like having more humanity. There's a little bit of a mechanical thing where it was like, there should be a little bit of a carrot for like staying human. Right, because a lot of the fun is the descent,
right? Becoming a monster,
a monster, and all that stuff. And like you want that. People want to play through that, but also there should be room in this to be like, no, I'm struggling against that. I don't want that. And there, is there a carrot on the other side? And so anyway, I came up with this concept of empathy, and that is specifically, it's a currency, but you can use empathy to ask the GM a question about the monster, and the answer must be true. How do we put this ghost to rest? Right? Like what is keeping this ghost attached to the mortal world or something like that, right?
Right.
And then in that moment, I might have an answer prepped. Like that might be part of the creature, or it might be something that comes up in that moment where I'm like, oh, good question. Well, obviously it's this. So I just added that mechanical affordance for like asking that question that like we were kind of asking anyway, just player to player. And then that's hooked to empathy is something that you have more of when you're more human, and as you lose lucidity, your ability to have empathy goes away, right? So it's a bit of that carrot on that side. And also for one shots, it means that players who are more on that side have something to do that's not like, because going towards the other side, you get like a cool arcane power and like whatever. Anyway, this is a fairly significant addition mechanically in terms of like, all right, it has to go on the sheet somewhere.
There
has to be like, okay, where does it come from? How do you spend it? How do you regain it? How do you get more?
Right. What are its cycles?
That kind of thing. Yeah. And like those are light. They're not hard questions to answer, but they do need to be answered.
Yeah.
But I basically like just added that kind of like midstream in that last playtest, and like it just felt good.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. It's there. That's part of the game now.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I haven't playtested the game with this edition
right
as robustly as the rest of the game. So is there something,
I think that like a lot of times, like the two examples that we just used are the product of a playtest. Like they come out of years of experience, or a lot of experience, I should say, like with the game. So you're just like, this is where the game is pointing. And I've been ignoring that for a while.
Right. I haven't needed to deal with that because I've been dealing with other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it is similarly, I think both of these are similarly like you can deal with this with play culture, right? Like this can just be a best practice that you develop as you play. And like, if I'm running the game in my, if I'm talking to someone who's going to run the game, like, oh, by the way, this is going to come up.
Right.
There's going to be this question towards the end, and you'll probably know the answer, and everyone will probably kind of be pointed at the same place. But be prepared.
we haven't done anything with this, but like in the same vein, after again a decade and a half, I was talking to a bunch of people who have played swords and run them for a lot of new people, and think to a person, they are all like, yeah, Epi, when I do it, I start with the rogues phase and then the discovery phase and then the perilous phase, which is the exact opposite order of what I do every single time. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And
maybe it's the kids who are wrong.
Yeah. So just recently ran it at Origins, and I did it the rogues phase first and worked my way to the perilous phase, and it was so much easier. So again, if you're listening and you really don't understand swords, I'm not going to explain it all, but like you could do the phases in any order. You can do a game that's all a single phase or the same phase over and over again. Like this isn't like a structural thing where like we've been playing all the games wrong. It's about how I introduce the game to people, sure. Right? Like it's that culture of play thing. And I think I probably had it in my head that we do the perilous phase first, because that was what Monkey Dome was. That was the first thing. Monkey Dome was just the perilous phase. This is the game that Swords is based on. It was just the perilous phase. And so I thought, well, it was the first one made. It's obviously the easiest one to grok. No, we don't use the word grok anymore.
I know. So many things have ruined for us. Mm-hmm. Easiest one to
understand, yeah. But it isn't. It's actually a little bit more intricate than the other ones. There's like a little bit of a dance going on. And once you know how the game is played, now that I've done this a few times, I'm like, oh, once they understand what's going on in the game, they're free to engage with that perilous phase. They have a better feel for how to engage with that perilous phase. Whereas in the beginning, the rogues phase is just simple. It's straightforward. It's you make a demand and they answer it, and that's it.
I think I've done it because it's how you do it. I've generally run it doing the perilous phase first, and there's definitely a distinction between people who have experience with more narrative focused games that are more and are more comfortable with like, oh, I'm going to put my own character in danger, right?
Yeah.
And then people who are coming from a different background that don't have as much of those skills, there's definitely an imbalance at the table in the perilous phase specifically, right? Yeah, with the rogues phase first, it's just asking questions and be like, tell me something cool, right? And that gets everyone kind of more on the same page with how this game works.
And like in the rogues phase, I can also model certain behaviors really. Right. Like I could just be like, show me how you get you and your allies captured. Mm-hmm. And then somebody's like, wait, oh, okay. And then when we get to the perilous phase, then they realize if I roll and I get like a jovial or something like that, I don't have to describe my character defeating everything. I could describe my character screaming in pain as the ogre holds them down, right? Like that's a thing I can do. And that might be a thing I want to do. Yeah. That gets into a whole nother discussion about like investing your opponent with glory, which is what the ephemera is about. But anyways, So it was like a late thing that I was like, oh, I'm changing my own personal culture of play here. Yeah. People were right. This is the way it should go. But also, like, over the course of those 15 years, the audiences I'm running it for are very different as well, right? Sure. 15 years ago, the audiences I would run for would either have never heard of anything but D&D or have played hundreds, if not thousands, of story games.
Right.
Like those are the two people who are likely to look at what my game is. Whereas now, like, the field is much wider, and I'm sorry. When I say story games, what I meant was they either only know D&D or like D&D, like, or they've played like all the games that my contemporaries are making, right? There's a cohort of like 30 of us, and everyone's been
they're going from My Life with Master to Swords Without Master, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
With a Primetime Adventures in the middle, right? Like that's kind of the vibe. Yeah. So in terms of like a wider topic, not just like talking about our games and how what great game designers we are.
Yeah, but I mean, we are, so we should just continue talking about that.
But I think there's something to having the confidence, right, with your own work to be like, this is an insight that I'm having, or this is a hole that I've been bridging over with skill that can be addressed with the text of the game. And because the game is close to done, because we're at the top of this, the design ziggurat, it doesn't need to be tested, right, in the same way that some of the earlier stuff does.
Right. It's the result of testing, right? Like it's
the result of test. So it's like we don't need to go run, another
15 years of swords.
Yeah. You don't need to run 15 years of swords not doing the trick in the first game to see if it worked. Like that's not the point. The point is this is actually a solution that is a product of all the experience that you have with the game.
Right. Yeah.
And similar, like this empathy mechanic was a affordance that I could add to the game to make what already was happening evident, right?
Yes.
And in that way, it was kind of like, okay, I don't need to like do a whole new cycle of testing to see if it works. Either it works as written, and that's great, or it's ignored and people do the thing they were doing anyway, which is what it is there to support doing. So there's no downside, right? Other than like a couple square inches of text on the sheet is like the only thing you're giving up there.
That actually brings up, we're going to talk about the same thing, but I'm going to put a hard break here because I want to talk about it from a different angle, which is the idea of how to. I'm going to dismissively call these training wheels, right? Because these also seem to be in that kind of thing that, like, hey, here's a game. There's no hard and fast way to say, here are a set of rules, right? And I think that these should be played out this way, right? And then it hits real life. Real people start playing it, and they play it a different way. And sometimes they have a lot of fun. And you're like, oh, that's great. I'm glad that this core here that I've put out in the world can be interpreted through this culture of play and do this other thing that I had not intended or I had hoped but didn't dare to dream, right? Like that kind of thing. And sometimes like they do it and they're just grinding to a halt because there's like a concept that they're not getting, and you're like, that concept can't be a rule, because if I make it a rule, I don't allow for freedom of play in another direction that is important, or whatever. I guess I have to write down guidelines, right? But guidelines are maybe read by one of the people in the group and maybe then conveyed. Like guidelines and rules are treated differently. So like the idea of like, here's a set of rules that are actually about just getting you into this particular mindset.
Sure.
They exist to get you playing a certain way. And then either explicitly they fall away. Like in the example that I have where I'm like, you only get this the first time you play. So explicitly, this rule doesn't exist after you've played the game once. Or implicitly, once you kind of understand how this game goes, you don't really need this to incentivize you this way or that, right. Or you don't need this guardrail that tells you don't do this, because it's just not going to come up. It's not going to be a thing. And just thinking about like design from that point of view of like, just I need you to treat this like a rule right now.
There is a point at which this rule no longer helps you.
Yeah, exactly. And you're free to abandon it, and you probably will, and just never realize that you did.
It's kind of the idea of failing gracefully, right? I'm not sure if that's true, but like Vincent and Meg talk about this with Apocalypse World, where it's like the rules of Apocalypse World are kind of like a series. It's like a series of concentric circles or an onion or like whatever.
Yeah,
you can kind of skip over or not deal with certain elements, and those not being there doesn't keep the other things from working, right? Like classically, if you aren't comfortable with the sex moves, okay, just don't use them.
Right.
And that that doesn't
Yeah.
mean the game grinds to a halt. And then that descends through stuff like as the MC, you're supposed to do fronts and everything. But like if you kind of wing it, if you wing the fronts, if you don't do like real like prepared fronts, but like it still works. Like you're just kind of like at the table and just making decisions and things are just kind of coming together.
Yeah.
That's fine. You're not making something else not work by kind of like eliding some of the down to like the moves themselves. If you're taking a really strict reading of like, okay, we have to make moves for everything that's important, you start to have a different play experience than like when the conversation goes that way and then you do the move that fits into the conversation. Like those are slightly, not to like get into apocalypse world discourse, but like those are slightly two different play experiences, but like they both work, right?
Yeah. I think it could be illuminated with like contrasting it with, say, board games, where I think if you've played enough board games, you end up with this experience where, but enough new board games, like you end up with this experience where you're about halfway through and somebody's like, wait, is that the way we should have been doing it? And then you're like, I don't know if this game will end because we didn't do this right, or we're about to win and this is like a cooperative game that like people very rarely win. It's like, oh, but there's a giant asterisk because we forgot to lose a hit point every round or whatever. That's an experience that I think is pretty common in board games where you're just like, we're playing chess and I just completely blanked on the idea that knights, I thought they moved like bishops and we were just moving them like bishops.
And it's kind of like, well, I guess we're playing this game that we've created to the end, or we just say that we're done and we restart. And that's kind of like a deflating moment sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Truly Trues, there's a lot of things in Truly Trues that if you did that with, they'll survive it.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. You're like, oh, from here on out, we'll do it. Or, man, I feel like there was like a very tangible example that happened recently with me. But anyways, go on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no like playing it wrong, right?
Right.
In real sense of like at the table with the people that you're playing with, you can always, with a Truly True, you can always kind of be like, all right, I mean, there might be a mechanical progression thing where you're like, oh, we should have been doing this. Everyone should have 5 more experience points now than you thought you did or whatever. But because so much of it is in context of whatever the narrative elements are, the imagined space that you're sharing, if you will, I feel like it's a lot easier to just be like, all right, let's just retcon that, or let's just give you the points, or all right, well, we play next time. When we start our next session, let's just remember that this is the rule for the thing we've been doing, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't like have that deflationary, like, oh, we're doing it wrong.
Or you could be like, hey, maybe we're just going to play the rules
the way just play the way that we're playing it, because at the end of the day, all play is individual at the table, however you're doing it. Yeah.
I'm in a legacy game playing a legacy, I don't know if it's called Legacy Ticket to Ride, but it's a legacy version of Ticket to Ride. And we're about 2/3 of the way through. And in one session, this is the thing, where there was like a particular rule that one of the players forgot, and they were the one who would have engaged with it by far the most. And we had to have this moment of like, for the remainder of this session, do we just assume the rule doesn't exist so that nobody can take advantage of it? Because this person would have been in a much better position if they remembered to do it? Or is that actually the part of the game? Like that if you forgot to do it, is that because it's a legacy game,
right?
New rules get introduced each time. And so it's like, oh, you didn't keep that rule from the last game in your head. So is that a feature of the game that we're getting away with something because you keep forgetting? Or like, do we just call it a wash? And it matters because you can win each individual session, but the overall score at the end determines the overall winner. And like now we hit a point where we're like, it was just so borderline enough that we had to actually stop the game and have a discussion about how to go forward with this. And I can't imagine that happening in a role-playing game. Well, sorry, I say that, but I have experienced that in role-playing games, but when we were younger, right?
Sure,
Like
sure.
you have arguments over like, I didn't know fireballs could do that much damage. I would have been casting them though, whatever. Yeah, no, it's an interesting
Well, that stuff in a Truly True is really contingent, right?
yeah.
And sometimes comes out of a more like confrontational or adversarial play culture, right? Where it's like, oh, you cast the fireball. All right, well, the whole party is in the zone, so everyone's going to take damage. And it's like,
Yeah, I didn't know that was going to happen.
Or it's like, oh, I thought the map was 10-foot squares. Like, no, the map is 5-foot squares. And it's like,
right,
wait,
yeah.
5-foot squares this whole time? That kind of stuff. It's like, well, you cast it, so we're going to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of a similar thing, but that's like so contingent on that particular group and those particular dynamics at the table. Yeah, I wouldn't say that happens in D&D all the time. It's a thing that can happen, and sometimes there's stories about it.
There was a time in an old game that I ran, not old, I mean, old as in like 10 years ago or whatever, but it was a old style dungeon crawl kind of thing. And I think one of our listeners of our show, at least one of our listeners I know, was in that game. I think he bought a grappling hook, but not the rope. And then they were in the dungeon. He's like, I would have bought the rope. I would, and it was a fun discussion. But in the end, I don't think he fell on this agreement, but the rest of the group fell on like the culture of play that this game wants is to punish you for forgetting to buy that rope.
Like
that,
if you're playing like Torchbearer.
Yeah.
It's like, I just assumed it came with the rope. It's like, well, does it say rope in the description?
Yeah. Like you can see the equipment list. There's the rope and there's the grappling hook and there's separate entries. And it made for like a fun moment and like them trying to make a makeshift rope out of stuff. Yeah, like that's fine. And like I think that's the ideal that game is trying to engender, but like it did cause this moment of like, well, hold on, I just didn't understand. And we were like, okay, oops, nobody's disagreeing that you just didn't understand. But now we have to decide, what does the game want from that? Like, what is its... what
does the game want, or what in this moment for us as a group is going to make this work going forward. Yeah. And a lot of the time in other contexts, it's like, okay, fine. It didn't say rope, but sure, you have rope and let's just move.
Right.
On.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had one thing I wanted to say, which is I do have a specific design thing for when a Truly True can grind to a halt.
Oh yeah.
This is totally a early draft playtesty kind of thing, but I've done it enough times that I always look for it now, which is what happens on a tie.
Oh yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many circumstances where it's like, if this person wins or if this, whatever, this side wins, this happens. If this side wins, this happens. And then it's just unstated on a tie. And it's the easiest thing in the world to be like, okay, we'll just have a tiebreaker of some kind, or we'll just roll again or something like that. Or we'll flip a coin. But I think, as the designer, if your game has ties, just have a line in there about how to break ties, please. That is a point where people will be like, all right, how do we do this? And there's not enough game yet to really have a direction for, like, what does the game want us to do? And it's like, the game doesn't yet either.
This is one of those things where it's like, and it can cascade, right? Like, there are games I can think of, older games, where we had exactly that. Like, we play and we get a tie and we're like, oh, what happens in a tie? And then we look in the rules and it's like, oh, a tie goes to the person who's rolled, right? Because sometimes one of the numbers is rolled and the other is set by someone's skill or something like that. But then they're like, hey, so a tie is set by the person who's rolling. And then the question is, who rolls then? Right? Like sometimes it's like their hypnotism is, or mesmerism or whatever, is like a +5 and your willpower is a +3. And it's like, if a tie goes to who rolls, this might be a roll where you're just trying to like get a number that you add to it that you try to exceed your opponent or whatever. Like this, I'm thinking one game in particular that did this, and it was just like, it did not say which side. It pretended that mathematically it didn't matter, but it did, because they resolved ties to the person who rolled.
Okay.
And so it had this like, whoever rolls just has this advantage, to the point where there are a lot of things you wouldn't attempt unless you were the one that got to roll, because you really didn't have a chance unless you had that tie break on your side or whatever. Anyways, but that's just an example of like, that doesn't always happen with ties, but like a little thing like that, like, oh, hey, we'll just give it to whoever rolls. And then it becomes this whole thing.
So maybe to connect some of this back to what we were nominally talking about for this episode, I think a lot of like this stuff where it's like, where are there hitches in the game, or where are there moments that are of potential unknown, how do we go forward?
Right.
You know, I feel like a lot of those end up getting shaken out through playtesting, right?
Yeah.
And become part of those fundamental things where it's like, okay, now that this is how ties are addressed, this group told me about this whole thing with the grappling hook and the rope and the whatever. So it's like, because my game wants you to really shop and make those decisions, let me, you know, put a couple lines in here about like, sometimes equipment requires other equipment to work. You have to have all of the individual parts.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's not even necessarily a rule, but it's more like, here's a clarification or just a backstop for when this question comes up. Because when it comes up, it can derail play if there is not a source of truth to kind of go back to, right? To try and figure it out. And yeah, there's kind of a transition at some point, I think, from being like, let me bridge those gaps in the rules to, the things that people are already doing. I guess that's kind of getting at what we're talking about here. Like with with tricks, people running the game were already like, I kind of just don't tell people about the tricks, or I just say, you don't need to worry about it for this game. Right. Or I tell them, here are the 3 that are best for
here are your tricks.
Or I assign them, or, you know, etc. These are all things that people are already doing to handle this condition that you've identified, which is you don't know which trick you want until you've played the game, right?
Right.
So in this case, you're able to look at that like, I can support that thing that's already happening by saying, here's the trick that looks backwards at the character instead of forwards at the game.
Yeah.
And the rest of the tricks are for when you know the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people can still be like, just don't worry about tricks. Like even the new trick, just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like that is still a thing that people can and will do. Or can and will be like, there's this trick that you can use, but also if one of these other tricks is like, I get to make a foe, you can take that one too. Like, or you can take that one instead, right? Like there's still all that room to be like, for the forward-looking player who is like, I really like the idea of saying, I'm going to fight a dinosaur this game. So like, you can still take that one as a beginning player in real life, like whatever the rule is, like but you're putting that little bit of support underneath, like, but don't worry about it, it'll be fine.
I gotta tell you, the thing I'm kind of looking forward to doing is running this game now with the new trick, and then at the end of the game saying, now you can't use that trick ever again, here's the list of other tricks. Right.
Yeah,
that's the part that I'm like, but you're absolutely right. Like there's going to be a lot of valid ways to do it. And I think you do bring up a thing that, like, right now I'm like, I should make sure that that's obvious, that like, here's the default trick. You don't need to know anything about any tricks the first time you play, because you can just use this. But if you want to use another trick, they're there. The problem with the tricks is that there's a few of them. If you haven't played, you're going to take them and then
they just won't come up.
Realize, I didn't want that. Like, that's not what I was expecting.
Well, so 2 things. First of all, I think people would self-select into being like, I want to use this one because it sounds cool, and those mostly being the ones that are going to be straightforward and usable, right?
Yeah.
And 2, the new trick could be used on itself, right? Like you could use that trick to replace itself with another trick.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that would be
during the game.
That'd be fun. Yeah. So, yes, exactly. I think that'd be great.
So it doesn't keep you from using a different trick if you're like through the game and you're poring over the list, and then you flip over like, what does this one actually mean? And you're like, I want to do this before we're done playing. You could just use the new trick to replace it with a different trick.
Yeah. That's great. Yes. Okay, that's official.
Boom, we got it.
We got it.
So I guess I just want to restate, because I think I said this, but I think this is what I'm taking away from this conversation.
Yes.
Is that there is a transition in the design process from, I need to fill holes or bridge gaps or create connections in this game to deal with the pitfalls that people are falling into, or that I see, or that I can just do, but I can't assume everyone else does, right?
Yeah.
There's a transition from making it a coherent whole with those kinds of fixes to, and here I can support what people are doing anyway, because the game is cohesive enough that players are able to extrapolate, here's how this should, right?
Yeah.
And then on the design side, you can be like, oh, people are already extrapolating. This is how this should work, or this is the most functional way to do this. I can support that with some relatively minor, in terms of like content changes that still have a major effect to, putting it all together. This is a supported thing that this game already knows that I'm going to run into, and here's how to deal with it. And that transition, I feel like, is one that really, it's a real last 10% is 90% of the work thing. It's like, you can't do that part until you've done all that other stuff to make it possible to get to the part where people can just interpret the rules in the way that is congruent with the rest of the game.
Another sort of angle on this is to say, like, you're never done having insights about your game.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Right? Like, the nature of those insights change. But I totally thought I was done having insights about this game. I really did. Like, and then this past year I was like, oh, I just had like a lot of moments where everything, I agree with what you were saying. This isn't like, I'm not trying to say what you're saying is wrong. I'm just saying that like there's this other tilt to it, which is like,
as time goes
keep
on,
occurring to you,
you can continue having these things and bringing them back into the game informal ways over time with other things like a supplement or whatever, or
a fix up.
Yeah, or a fix up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's probably a good place to call this one good.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a real thing to celebrate when it's like, oh, here's this little thing that is going to feel like it's just part of the game that
you've been doing all
along. Just because it's coming in right at the end of the process doesn't mean it's not the right thing.
Right.
Because it's a product of the process. So that's kind of what we're trying to get at here. Yeah. Well, similar to being at the end of the process, I think we're at the end of this episode.
Good. That's a good segue to the end. I dig it.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything in particular to note for our stuff. We're getting more swords done. Swords is getting done.
Mm-hmm. Proofs are coming.
We'll have some more stuff to talk about with the annual soon.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.
Playtest Tuesday continues to go strong over at the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some rumblings about maybe a Playtest Tuesday Euro edition that would be at a more Euro area friendly time.
Yeah, not 4 a.m. or whatever it is. Yeah.
If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, we can see if we can we just need someone to spearhead it, is basically.
Yeah.
Someone to be like, I will be the person to anchor the Eurozone time slot.
Yeah.
But I think we'd be happy to host that in our space if that is something that would be useful to you folks who, don't live on our continent, which good for you, honestly. Yeah. Stay cool out there, everyone.
Oof.
And we'll keep talking about games.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll even start talking about new games or games that we're working on that aren't swords.
Yeah, I know. I cannot wait.
The Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast is by us. Go us. Our music is by Will Yobst. Thank you, Will. You can find all of our links to everything at unwrittenearth.com. I was about to say worldswithoutmaster.com, which I guess will eventually get you to our other stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Swordswithoutmaster.com will as well. But that includes the aforementioned Discord, where we're also talking about games and media and other things, tools to make games, etc. The Patreon, where our scholars are generously funding the continued existence of this very podcast, as well as all of our other work. There's a newsletter you can sign up for updates when stuff drops, like, hey, Swords is out. You'll get an email. It'll be great. And you can find us on Blue Sky, and you can find us on the various platforms to buy games, such as Itch and RPG Trader and DriveThru. There's a link to our PayHip store to get stuff in print, et cetera, et cetera. All the great links are over there at unwrittenearths.com. And that brings us to our traditional end of episode question. Now that we're at that end where things are just falling into place for one game, Epi, have we designed another game yet?
Well, just a few more tweaks.